Good day, wonderful students. My name is Akinjagunla Oluwaseun, your biology teacher. Today, I'll be taking you through a very interesting topic in biology. I want you to sit back, listen, and at the end of the class, feel free to ask some questions. See you at the end of the lesson. Today, we shall be looking at the topic ecological management, and we're focusing on adaptation. At the end of the lesson, you'll be able to define the concept of adaptation, to describe the adaptation of salt and freshwater organisms, and three, you'll be able to describe plant adaptations to the availability of water. All living organisms have a place where they live and thrive. It's called its habitat. For organisms to thrive in their habitat, organisms must possess special features which we call adaptations. Adaptations are features possessed by all organisms that makes them well suited for their habitats. These features may be structural, functional, or behavioral. Now let's look at the adaptations of two different habitats, the freshwater habitat and the saltwater habitat. As we know, fishes take these two habitats as their abode. Let's look at the adaptations of the marine fish and compare it with those of the freshwater fish. The marine fish, now let's start with the marine fish. These fish have cells that are hypotonic, that is, their cells contains more water and less salt. But their habitat is hypertonic, that is, their habitat has more salt and less water. Now, if this were in a normal situation, the effect is that water will leave the cells and the cells of the fish will shrink and die, and causing the fish to die. Now, what does the fish do to overcome this challenge? It has a few adaptations. Number one, the fish drinks large quantities of water to balance out the salt and water imbalance. Number two, the fish excretes the excess salt. It has a special gland for gathering all the salt it takes in and excreting them out of its body. And number three, the fish only produces a small volume of highly concentrated urine. In this way, the marine fish can live successfully in a marine habitat. On the other hand, the freshwater fish has cells that are hypertonic, that is, the cells of the fish have more salt in them than their external environment. Their habitat is, of course, hypotonic, that is, there is no salt in their habitat, little or no salt. Now, if this was to stand in a normal situation, water will enter into the cells because of this setup and cause the fish cells to swell until they burst and the fish dies. But the fish has a way of overcoming this. It has an adaptation by, number one, it does not drink water. The fish it swims in the water, but it closes its mouth and makes sure it does not drink water. Then the cells absorb salt. As we said earlier, the habitat has a little salt, so the little salt it still absorbs some of those little salts in order to balance its body system. And number three, it produces a large amount of dilute urine. So it excretes excess water in the cells, it excretes it out. In that way, it is able to live successfully in a freshwater habitat. Next, let's look at adaptations of plants to the availability of water. Water is crucial for the survival of plants because water is one of the major ingredients plants use to make their food. Water is also key in keeping plant cells in a turgid state, which translates to an erect standing plant as seen in the image A. A reduction in the amount of water or available water to plant leads to wilting, as you can observe in the other two images. Plant leaves are designed to handle different water situation. The image on the screen shows a section and internal structure of a leaf. The xylem, as you can see in the structure, brings in water into the leaves. Palisade and spongy mesophyll cells use this water to make glucose. The upper and lower epidermis have thick walls which prevent water loss from the leaf. The waxy cuticle adds another layer of protection against water loss. The stomata located along the lower epidermis is flanked by guard cells that are closed or open depending on the situation of the weather. Usually in the daytime, plants open their stoma to take in carbon dioxide. In the process, water is usually lost. Plants have been able to conquer all types of habitats by developing special adaptations that help them to cope with the water situation in the habitat they find themselves. There are three major groups of plants categorized based on the amount of water available in their habitats. And number one are the Mesophytes. Mesophytes are the common terrestrial plants we see all around us. They are also the most successful of the three categories of plants. They have access to moderate amounts of water. They have well-developed vascular system, that is the xylem and the phloem, to move water and food efficiently around the plant. No wonder some mesophytes can grow to a height of over 50 meters and counting. Number two, the hydrophytes. This group consists of plants that live completely or partially submerged in water. For these plants, too much water is the major problem. They cope by having adaptations or mechanisms for the removal of excess water from their cells. They also have they have very thin cuticles on their leaves. Number two, they have broad leaves with numerous stomata. Number three, their tissues have air spaces, so they can even stay afloat on water. Number four, they have poorly developed root system. After all, who needs a good root system when you are already living in water? So number three is Xerophyte. This consists of plants that have developed adaptations to live in environment with little water, such as deserts and polar regions. In order to survive and thrive in this type of environment, plants have developed some adaptations. Number one, some of those adaptations. Number one is they have a thick cuticle on stems and leaves to prevent water loss. Number two, these plants have fewer and sometimes have sunken stomata, as you can see on the screen. Number three, ability to store water in their leaves and tissues. Number four, production of hair-like leaves or sometimes no leaf at all. Number five, well-developed roots that soaks underground water. Number six, spines for protection from predators. So there are a few plants that we know that have these features. Examples include your cactus, your aloe plant, and even your pineapple.
You're welcome back. I hope you learned a thing or two. Feel free to send in your comments and questions. And until next time, we have another important topic to discuss. Have a lovely day.